Hey everyone, welcome to the RRR Revolution Podcast, Episode 2. My God, we actually made an Episode 2. In this one, right now, we've got a few segments in here. We've got Cynical Enigma. He's going to be going over the new stores versus the used stores as far as selling games. We have Indie Soul, who's making a segment on the Game Boy Color. And we also have an exclusive, for a limited time, an exclusive interview with Mike Kennedy from GameGavel.com, who gives us a lot of insight on the GameGavel.com auction website, along with some more information about the Retro Gaming Roundup podcast, and just some general chat and whatnot. On top of that, as I'm recording this intro, there may be a few extra segments that we're going to throw in as we get closer to the deadline. But so far, it's shaping up to be a really good podcast. I also have a surprise segment coming up at the end of this one. So with that said, we're going to go ahead and kick off the podcast with Cynical Enigma.
In the podcast on RetroReviewRevolution.com. And today we're going to be talking about some general retail stores and the comparisons to the retail stores back when we were kids, back when I was a kid at least. I remember back in the day where I would go to the retail store, no one would ask you if you would want to reserve a game or anything. They wouldn't bug you about it every damn time you go into the store. Or they wouldn't be like, hey, if you buy this, you get this one free, or if you buy this, you get or you buy 2 games, you get one free, or some other bullshit like that, like they do at GameStop constantly. And the reason why I bring this up for this podcast is because something just happened to me today that I really got fed up with at my local GameStop in the mall. And this literally just happened about maybe 20 to 30 minutes ago, and the date today is Saturday, March 24th, 2012, and right now it is 9:13 p.m., and this literally just happened about 20 to 30 minutes ago. I went in to trade some games in because I had recently done a Craigslist deal and I didn't want the games, and as you all may have, for those of you who follow me on YouTube, I did a video on Video Games Etc., which is a locally owned video game store in my town, and they used to be good, and I did a video about them on how bad they resell old video games for the Super Nintendo, Nintendo, and all that stuff, and because of that, I am banned from the store, which I could give a shit less, but that's one of the reasons why I can only go to GameStop when I want to sell my games. And I usually don't go to GameStop, but I don't have any other choice unless I go on to Craigslist or whatever, but I wanted to see what kind of games they have there for cheap. And I picked up Thrillville and Untold Legends for the PlayStation Portable, PSP, and it cost me about $250 for each title, so I couldn't complain. I thought that was a really great deal, and I still had some money left over on a card. So, but here's the thing, though. When I went in there to trade in those games, they kept bugging me about reserving a game for $5 and everything else. And I looked at them and I was like, you know what? I don't want to reserve any games, okay? And they're like, oh, come on, why not? And I told them. I looked at them and everything, and while I was explaining to them why I didn't want to, they were like looking at me in deep thought and hearing what I had to say, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing because it was a point that I was trying to get across to them that basically what I told them that the reason why I do not reserve any games to get certain free DLC bullshit is because I'm not. I don't know if I'm not supposed to swear in this or not, but I was pretty upset, and everything else. So I just had to tell them, and I'm still pretty upset because they won't stop doing that. I know it's their job and everything to remind us, but come on, I'm sick of hearing it. And anyways, I go in there and I tell them the reason why I don't reserve games anymore anywhere locally. And basically my reason is that, they release games with certain free DLC, and then they have tons of other DLC on the systems that you can download. And basically they rape you on the prices and everything just so they can make that extra dollar. And basically I told them that I would rather wait 6 to 7 months down the road until they don't buy it, until everyone starts buying that certain game, so when they release a Game of the Year edition or a Gold edition or hell, a complete edition, for that matter. Sorry, I will pick it up. And he tried telling me that there isn't that many out there, and like they don't make that many. And I looked at it and was like, yeah, but for that few. That may be true now, but in the future I know there will be more. But that may be true for now, but the games that were released, like the Gold Editions and Ultimate Editions, Complete Editions, or all that stuff with all the DLC they released for it before, that's on the disc now, I like for instance, they got the Mortal Kombat Complete Edition with Freddy Krueger, they got Noob, I think, on here. That Freddy Krueger, Scarlet, Rain, and Kenshi. I'm sorry. Rain, Kenshi, Scarlet. Yeah, whatever. And they also have a free movie you get with it and the soundtrack to the game as well. Now, I would rather wait, even if it takes a year, I would rather wait a year to get that, because you get everything with it, along with the Red Dead Redemption, like the Red Dead Redemption Game of the Year edition. I got the Golden Guns, I got the War Horse, I got the Undead Nightmare and the original game, and I only paid $40 for it. I mean, if you think about it, back then when you picked that game up, you had to pay an extra $30 for the Undead Nightmare. You had to pay extra money for the War Horse, extra money for the Golden Guns, and everything else, like the Liars and Cheats pack, and that would probably be totaling up to about $140 to $150 back then. And see, the thing is that I'd rather wait for those editions to come out, just as Resident Evil 5 Gold Edition. That includes Desperate Escape and Nightmares and all that other stuff on it. And I only paid about $25 for that. Yeah, that's the thing. And then after I told them what I felt about, reserving games and stuff, and they had nothing to say because they knew I was right. They knew deep down that I was right about everything I had to tell them. And that's the difference between the I don't even know what I'm saying right now. That's the difference between the stores nowadays from back then. I mean, back then you can go in there and buy a game, that'd be it. They don't bug you about nothing. Every now and then they would. I remember when I was a kid, they said that if you trade in a game, you get a certain percentage off another game or whatever. Or if you can buy one game, you get one free. Buy 2 games, you get one free. But that wasn't constantly, like GameStop is. Or nowadays, Video Games Etc. also does that too in my town. The one in Cedar Rapids does not do that, but the one in my town does, and I'm kicked out of that one. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening. And if you want, stop over to youtube.com/user/cynical enigma to check out more of my videos that I have up there. If you like what you see, subscribe if you have an account on there. You can also check out my Facebook page. It'll be on my homepage at retroreviewrevolution.com. You can go there to check it out, and if you like it, hit the like button. I will keep you updated on everything I do daily that's game related, or if I'm going out to game hunting, everything. And I'll also post up pictures on my Facebook page of stuff that I get early. And so if you guys want to see what I got before I do a video, that would be perfect. And that's about it. So this is Cynical Enigma saying keep it retro, 90s style. Well, for me anyways. I know most of you guys like the 80s stuff too, and I'm a fan of the 80s, but I grew up playing the 80s stuff in the 90s, so that's where I'm at. Cynical Enigma, signing off.
Okay, this is Lethco here. We're doing our interview with Mike Kennedy. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Mike Kennedy, shame on you, because he's a guy who started up GameGavel.com, one of the best auction site for retro gamers and modern gamers. So how you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, no problem. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day for this. Why don't you tell everyone how GameGavel got started up exactly? What inspired you to create an alternate auction site specifically geared for gamers?
Yeah, sure. Well, I had been a big eBay user since about 1997, and I've still got an account there to this day, although it obviously doesn't get used, very much. But so I had used eBay for quite a while, and about early 2008, like many of us, I started to see that eBay was sort of changing kind of how they are doing business, kind of trying to steer people away from the auctions and more into a buy it now and kind of compete with Amazon, continuing to raise prices. And it's even gotten worse, now they're dictating to people, what to charge for shipping. You have to use PayPal, all of these things, that they're not dictating to everybody that uses their site. So I kind of saw all of this coming, and I thought, number one, I think gaming's a big enough niche to have its own dedicated gaming auction site, And so based on that, I knew a guy that did some auction software. I actually worked on some software for my dad at one point, and I talked with him. And it's funny because this all happened over a camping vacation. We were down in southern Arizona, right on the Mexico border, camping, and the guy, while I was on the camping trip, was setting up the site for me, and then I was actually going in on my BlackBerry and setting up, the categories and everything else, from the Arizona Mexico border. So a lot of this got set up, kind of on a smartphone, which is kind of funny.
Wow, it's impressive.
Yeah, you got to love modern technology. So anyway, GameGavel was born in March of 2008. Of course, it started out as Chase the Chuck Wagon, which is kind of a rare Atari 2600 cartridge that most Atari collectors, at least in the beginning, thought it was kind of the most rare cartridge ever for the Atari, and kind of became the holy grail of Atari collecting. Later on, they kind of figured out that it wasn't as rare as everybody thought, but back in the early 2000s and late 90s, it was a pretty expensive cartridge.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because I had brought up that game at work the other day, and my boss looked at me. It's like, you're telling me they made a video game based off of dog food?
Yeah, no kidding. So I named it Chase the Chuck Wagon originally because I thought it was a great name because it was kind of the holy grail of gaming, a very popular retro classic gaming title that a lot of collectors knew about, and it just seemed like a great name for an auction site where people are looking for their Chuck Wagons, whatever it may be. So it kind of was kind of an interesting name, I think, and I really still like it to this day. But had to change it, I think.
Yeah, whenever I had first signed up, it was Chase the Chuck Wagon. I don't know how far into it you were whenever I had first signed up. I think it might have been 2009. But what inspired you to switch over from Chase the Chuck Wagon over to the current name GameGavel?
Well, when I had launched Chase the Chuck Wagon, there was another guy who launched a gaming auction site. Right, basically, we started like within a couple of weeks of each other, and I don't think either of us knew about the other one, so it's not like one of us had the idea and somebody else copied it. It was just sort of, we both really just started them simultaneously, and so we were kind of banging heads for about the first, I don't know if it was a whole year, but a good 6 to 9 months, I would say. Maybe it was as much as a year. He and I were kind of banging heads, and we were kind of attacking the forums and trying to get our names out all over the forums and everything, but it didn't really work out well for him. I mean, his site wasn't really growing at all. Chase the Chuck Wagon, started pretty good, I think. And I think a lot of it just went back to the look of our site, and maybe the name at some point, for at least the classic gamers, it resonated with them. And so we really started doing a lot better than him. And then, many months later after he started it, I had caught word that he was going to end it. He was going to kill it off. And I thought, I've always really liked that name. And despite, my classic gaming roots, ultimately I probably would have preferred to keep it Chase the Chuck Wagon. But I thought in order to help it grow, that I needed a name that was a little more universally, accepted or known, maybe as a potential gaming auction site for all generations of games. Because a lot of people didn't know what the hell Chase the Chuck Wagon was. I mean, even like in the Nintendo Age forums, where some of the guys are a little bit younger, I was promoting it there, and people were like, "What the hell is Chase the Chuck Wagon?"
Right on, cool. Now, along with the name change, I believe that's about the same date where you came up with the mascot, the little gavel with the eyes on it.
Yeah, that was just some clip art, that I had taken off. I got someplace, and it's not copyrightable, so I've wanted to change it. And people that have been on the site lately, we've gone through, lots of, well, not a lot, 3 or 4 different logo designs. And the one that we're currently using is just temporary as well. I'm going to have some professionals, again, work on it here probably in the next couple of months, and maybe try to come up with one that we'll keep for the long haul, something that I can, copyright and trademark, and all of that. But, yeah, we had the little gavel guy there for a while. But he still makes an appearance, in and around the site if you look closely.
Cool. Speaking of creating something for the site, you've had a game on there for a while, VidGrid. What's the story behind that?
So VidGrid, one of my biggest challenges is, of course, to get people to use an auction site. That, when we started it, we had no buyers, we had no sellers, so it's real challenging to bring people on and get them excited about using a site other than eBay, even though most people would prefer someplace other than eBay, but a lot of people still just don't think we're quite big enough. But it's always been important to me to get creative and do different things to try to drive the traffic to our sellers' auctions. And so I was on a business trip, in the car, driving somewhere here in Southern California. It was a long road trip, I remember. And I just started thinking about maybe trying to make a game out of our listings. And by the time I got home, I pretty much had the idea, pretty much all formulated. I mean, it's nothing real difficult. Basically, what I wanted to do was make a matching game, where you'd flip tiles over and you try to match two of the tiles, and if you get a successful match, they disappear, and you do this until that wave is done, and then a whole new wave of tiles loads up. And essentially, what we were doing is we take the tiles that are actual photos from live running auctions and turn those into the cards. So you're trying to match up, in that way you can actually, you're seeing things that actually are up for auction. So you may see something in that game while you're playing it that maybe you didn't. It's just a creative way of kind of searching the listings, and at the end of the game, all of the items that you successfully matched, it gives you a list, and you can actually then click the links from that list and it'll take you to the auction so you can bid on the items. So, it's kind of popular, kind of comes and goes. People play it a little bit here and there, and then it won't get played for a while, and then I'll promote it a little bit more, and then people will play it again. But for anybody looking for VidGrid, it just sits on GameGavel.com right on our homepage in the right-hand column. It just says Play VidGrid, and obviously it's a free Flash game. It'll pop up in your browser, and it's pretty fun. It was actually designed for me by Peter Hirschberg, who many arcade game collectors know as having this really killer arcade out in, I think, Virginia, although he's since closed it down. But he did a lot of the animation for Chasing Ghosts, the movie. He was actually the guy who started Retro Arcade Radio, which I've taken over a few years ago as well. So a lot of people in the arcade circles know Peter. But he actually, helped me design the game, and one of his friends coded it for me and everything. So it's pretty fun.
Good deal. Speaking of Retro Gaming Radio, I noticed that GameGavel's kind of got like a small collection of community sites that work with it. There's Gamer Spots, you have Retro Gaming Roundup Podcast, GameGavel itself, Retro Gaming Radio. Is this just a collection of things that you're trying to use to create a more community feel for the website?
Yeah, basically, I'm just trying to, again, I'm trying to bring more people and more eyes and more traffic to the auction site. So, if I can kind of create some of these, other properties that kind of hover or revolve around the marketplace that ultimately, I hope will suck people into the marketplace, I want to do that. So, Gamer Spots, although it's kind of slow going right now, it's something that, it's out there. I've not promoted it a lot. I want to do more promotion of it, but it's basically there to just promote local mom and pop video game stores around the world, and certainly in the United States where most of the spots are. But basically anybody can log in for a free account there if they've got a local mom and pop video game store they want to help out and promote. You can basically upload a photo, talk about it. It's kind of like Yelp, but or a Groupon maybe a little bit, but just dedicated to video gaming stores. Or anywhere you can find video games in your area, whether it's a store or a swap meet, maybe it's a LAN center, an expo, all those types of things people can submit and review so other gamers can, find out about these places and get information about them. So that's one of the things that we've added. Retro Arcade Radio is basically a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week streaming radio station. It's hosted on Live 365, and it's got just tons of kind of classically inspired, music. It also has a huge collection of vintage retro gaming advertisements and like television and radio commercials from back in the late 70s and early 80s too. So it's pretty cool.
Awesome. One of the big perks I think that GameGavel has going for it right now, a huge perk over eBay, and I'm just going to speak from personal experience here. It seems out of every 10 auctions I go after on eBay, 4 of them, out of every 10 winning auction, I'll put it that way, 4 of them I end up having to file a claim over, which I've never had to do over GameGavel. What do you think is a big reason why GameGavel has a stronger, more reliable selling community?
I think number one, we're a community of gamers, and so a part of kind of creating the community feel and adding the forums and some of these other things is so people can get to know the people that they're buying and selling with. eBay is just so big, which is great. I hope to be that big someday. Maybe not quite as big, but in eBay you're just sort of an anonymous user. On GameGavel, you're somebody that can go into the forums and promote your items and get to know other gamers. And I think I don't know, on eBay, a lot of times I think maybe people are selling games, but they may not be gamers. You know what I mean? It may be people that are, in business, adults selling games, whatever. But generally on GameGavel, you're going to be buying and selling with, a fellow gamer. which I think is really important. And that's just one of the things I think that I hope makes GameGavel a better alternative for gamers. Of course, it's a lot less expensive to list on, and was kind of my goal from day one, to kind of give back to this hobby, that I love. And generally most of the people in this hobby are cool, although, as any hobby, there's a few stinkers out there. But I wanted to make it very inexpensive so that anybody could come on here and list their games and not feel like, they're getting taken advantage of. So we started with a transaction-based system, just like eBay, where we would just take a selling commission, although we would never charge a listing fee. Although I think for a while there we tried it and it just didn't work. It's a really weird thing, Leithco, because, people want more traffic on GameGavel. That's the biggest complaint that I get. One way to get this traffic is for me to charge fees and then take those fees take that revenue that I'm making from the fees and advertise the site and bring more business to the site so people can sell more at higher dollar values. But at the same time, people don't want to really pay, So it's always sort of been this weird,
like
tug
a
of war.
catch-22 situation.
Yeah, it really is, and I don't, I think, we're a business. I mean, it is a hobby, and I am doing it for the gamers. But at the same time, I would like this to be a full-time gig for me, eventually. And so the only way to do that, is to make some money. I mean, it's in business to make money. And I've really given everything away to almost everybody. We've got, 6,000 people on here right now that basically have lifetime free accounts. Some people use them, which, I'm forever grateful to. Some people aren't using it. But not everybody sells, I understand that. But, it's something where I need listings. We need listings. And so I thought, if I could make 6,000 people, be able to use this for free forever, that it would at least get some listings on it. And it has, I mean, I'm not complaining. We've got right now, we're around 5,000 listings, for a site that's really had no marketing money, no marketing budget, no backing, no financial backing of any sort other than just what I can, put into it personally, which isn't much these days. It's done very well, and all I can do is thank, the people that are diehards, that are listing with us and, keeping the listings up. But yeah, it is funny, like I said, so we've switched from the transaction-based amount, which was just taking a couple of % of a sale and free listing, so it wasn't ever much. And now I thought, maybe we'll try a subscription model where we just charge a flat fee. One of the things that always irritated me with eBay is you never really know what you're paying. You have no idea. You just get your bill and you pay it every month, and you're like, holy shit, it was $120. What did I sell? How did I get charged $120? Or some people are paying.
It's horrible on eBay these days. The last thing I sold in there was a few cell phones, and quite frankly, I probably would have made more money if I would have put them on on Craigslist.
Yeah.
Or half of what I sold them for on eBay after all the fees and everything kicked in.
Yeah. Well, eBay, it's weird. I mean, they're trying to kind of convert everybody to buy it nows, but they make more. They're charging, I think right now on a buy it now video game auction, they're taking 15%. That doesn't include any of the bonus things that you might want to add to dress your auction up. I mean, 15%, that's quite a damn bit. And there's people that, literally just get to the point where they can't afford to sell there anymore. And so, the only thing I can do is just continue to keep growing this to the point where, everybody feels comfortable to come over here. One of the things, so back to the subscription thing real quick. So basically, you don't know what you're paying on eBay. Here, it's a set fee. You don't need a credit card to sell over here. We're just trying to PayPal's, which, we all know PayPal's part of eBay. But I do love PayPal. I think it's a great service. I don't mind paying a little bit here and there for using their service as a seller. Most other people use it. Some people want to use Google Checkout and stuff like that. That's fine, and people can integrate that into their listings if they want. Problem is, not that many people that I found really use it. And so as far as like the buyers are concerned. So, we integrate, and embed and work with PayPal, and it works really nicely. But so we tie into their recurring billing service. So if anybody wants to sell, you basically pick one of three levels: $2 a month, which is you get 20 listings and or sales, because we don't charge any commissions. It's just a flat $2. Or $8 a month is unlimited. You can sell as much as you friggin' can for $8 a month, which is, unheard ofly. It's so cheap. I can't even believe it.
Yeah, for $2 for a single auction, you would already be making more off the game that you sell on GameGavel than you would in eBay.
Yeah, yeah. And, people don't think that their items are going to sell as much on our site as it is on eBay, and that's really a false thought at this point. eBay is not like it used to be. You are not guaranteed to sell anything on that site. Generally, more it has got to get relisted over there multiple times before it sells. I mean, just look at do any search for Atari or NES or Sega Genesis or, Xbox 360, whatever you want, and look at all of the items that are closing in seconds and in minutes, hundreds of items that are not going to get sold. And people just keep relisting blindly and don't think twice. Something doesn't sell on GameGavel, they blame my size. Something doesn't sell on eBay, they just whatever, I'll just keep relisting it until it sells. It's just really, really a strange thing. We do have a lot of traffic. Right now, we're 20 to 30,000 unique visitors a month, all gamers. It's not a lot of, other people coming to it. So, we are starting to sell more and more current generation stuff. But, generally it's the retro and classic stuff that's, doing the best. And that's, of course, there's more of it on here, than anything else, because I've been able to promote it through the retro gaming circles that I was in, before I started this thing. So that's kind of why it's kind of been steering in the retro direction. Although, for it to grow, as much as all us retro guys would love it just to be 100% classic and retro, we do need the younger generation to get in here and start using it as well.
Right. That's something that I think is going to be a challenge as the future moves on with the newer game consoles supposedly possibly going download only.
Yeah, and I'm not too worried about it yet. I mean, there's people still buying physical, games clear back to the Atari and the original Odyssey on GameGavel. So everybody's always going to be buying physical games, So I think from a business model standpoint, the auction site's going to do fine. People trying to just buy older stuff, especially it may even start doing better if physical gaming goes away and, GameStop, goes to all digital, maybe someday or whatever. I mean, right now, GameGavel, and this is hard to believe, I even think this is really hard to believe, is the only, at least that I can find, and I'm on the web every damn day, almost all day long. GameGavel is the only dedicated video gaming auction site and marketplace around. It's the only one, and it blows my mind, for a $40-50 billion industry with a huge, classic gaming, the popularity of classic gaming that's for 40 years. I mean, there's so much stuff to buy and sell that all we have is eBay, which doesn't specialize in games at all. You got Amazon, they don't specialize in games. Craigslist, none of them specialize in it. So what we want to do is specialize in it. We want to give people the reviews and the entertainment and a combination of things where they can read about the games, be entertained by what we've got, and also buy and sell games all on the same website. Right now, in a world of thousands and thousands and thousands of gaming websites, we are the only site that you can do that, all-inclusive, all on one site. I'm pretty proud of that.
And I think it's great that for the only site that does the retro game auctions and whatnot, the community there is a very upbeat, high-end community. It's not filled with a whole lot of negativity or anything that you see in a lot of the other communities that are related to games both modern and retro.
Yeah. I'm not going to bash any forums, but I mean, nearly every other gaming forum that I've been on has got some drama, recurring drama. And everybody will admit to this. As far as I know, on GameGavel, there's really not a lot of drama. We've got very friendly forums. We have a lot of people that come into the forums that say they generally would never go into a forum, but we love this forum and what it's all about and love the people that we see, and we can, we just love it. And so the forums have actually been growing quite a bit lately, and I'm really bad because we moderate people in, and I don't check it every day, but I mean, I'll check it, about twice a week, and there's usually a good dozen people, every week that are trying to get in. So it's, the forums have been growing quite a bit, and a lot of that, I think, will be traced back to the Retro Gaming Roundup crowd as well, I think.
Going back to Retro Gaming Roundup, what's its been? Can't talk today. What's its effect as far as on GameGavel.com? Did you see an increase in GameGavel usage as a result of the success of the podcast?
Yeah, I can't measure it exactly, but obviously it can't hurt. Retro Gaming Roundup right now, it's I'm getting a lot of reverb here.
Sorry, is it coming over my end?
I don't know. It just started. Maybe it's better now. I don't know. I think it's better.
Okay.
We'll make you do a little edit job there. But anyway, yeah. So I can't measure it directly, but I know that it's bringing people in, without a doubt, because I do see a lot of people that I know are listeners, because a lot of them are using the same usernames, on in the forums as they are in GameGavel. So I see a lot of the same people, that I know are listeners that are also, buying or selling or both, on the auction site. So it's definitely, it was definitely, at least my plan. I don't know if it was UK's and Scott's plan to originally be a part of GameGavel, but I mean, I know GameGavel's brought in a lot of people to Retro Gaming Roundup as well. So I think it's 50-50, as far as I think GameGavel helps out Retro Gaming Roundup. I think Retro Gaming Roundup helps out GameGavel. I think.
Good deal. I'm probably one of the unique few that I had never listened to a podcast before Retro Gaming Roundup, any podcast whatsoever. I don't know if you remember NES Johnny or not, but he's the guy that brought me over to the GameGavel.com website.
Yeah. He's out here, right? He's here in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's gone to the swaps with me a couple of times.
Yeah, he's a good guy. I love talking to him.
Yeah.
But he brought me over to GameGavel, and then from there was all this talk of this podcast, and I'm here like, I'll jump in, why not? And I start downloading the episodes, which for people who've never heard, they're like between 5 to 7 hours long. I didn't think anything of it because I'd never heard a podcast before. I'm here like, okay, well, I pause it, continue whenever I get time or whatever. Never realizing a normal podcast goes like, 30 minutes to an hour, and to me, it don't feel right only being 30 minutes to an hour because I'm so used to that 5 to 7 hour mark these days.
Yeah. Yeah, when we first started it, I mean, that was one of the biggest complaints that we got, that it was, it was just too long. People couldn't bookmark. They couldn't jump to where they, to the segments they wanted to jump to. And I think, for the most part now, other than we get new listeners, I know that'll comment here and there saying, this is crazy. I mean, why don't they just cut it up into, 1 or 2 hour segments and run them, throughout the month versus just one big show?
Because it wouldn't be right.
Yeah, it wouldn't. At this point, it would not be right. I mean, that's really what sets us apart, and we try to mix it up and have, interesting content in the different segments. It's sort of like, Saturday Night Live, a skit of segments, all kind of jammed into one 5 or 6 or 7 hour show. So I think it's worked out really well. We're starting our third year, right? Third year. Must be I think we're starting our fourth year.
I'm counting 3 on your banner. That's the only way I keep track, though.
Yeah. So we put the little Galaga flags up every time we have an anniversary. So I think we've gone 3 years and we're starting our 4th year. That just seems weird to me. I mean, I think we started in 2009. I think it was February of 2009 to 2010 to 11. Yeah, I can't believe that. I cannot believe that it's been, we're over 3 years of shows. I mean, it seems like we just started it yesterday.
I know it's been a really positive venture for you guys, and as for myself, I couldn't be happier for the success that you all have found from that. I mean, it's just simply amazing to listen to you guys from episode 1 to all of a sudden, we're hearing you guys give interviews out of E3. Just an amazing thing to happen in only 2 or 3 years. Yeah.
No, it's great. And we got E3 coming up this year, so we're going to have a whole new slew of interviews. I think we're about out of the interview. I don't know how many we've got. We're keeping track, but I think we've still maybe 2 or 3 left. So I think we figured we'd have enough to get up to this E3. Of course, last year they skipped E3 again. So, we've had to basically live off of the content that we generated from the first show, and then a few other, miscellaneous interviews that we'll set up, here and there throughout the month, or throughout the year. But yeah, the interviews are one of my favorite parts. When I, listen to Retro Gaming Radio, Shane Monroe's show, one of my favorite things they always did was the interviews. I mean, that was the part that just was riveting to me. And so we wanted to, keep that, kind of keep that element in this show as well. So it's a big part of the show, and they're a lot of fun to do.
Yeah, I love that aspect of it, and a lot of it is because from my younger years, I never kept up with who did the work. I was just the type of person playing the game, and it's so insightful to listen to the people behind it and, what they had to go through, what their mindset was whenever they were doing all this stuff. It's just a wonderful addition.
Yeah, for sure. And if you can't make it to Vegas or you can't make it to these shows, it's just a great thing, I think, for people that can't make it to listen to these. They still get to hear the interviews from these people, because a lot of these guys are doing panels at the show and stuff like that. But if you can't go, I mean, this is maybe the next best thing.
No, absolutely. I love it. I mean, I'm in a position to where it would be very hard for me to go to a CGE. I think the furthest I get out for any gaming convention is maybe St. Louis.
Yeah.
But, that's a thing with the family thing. It's, if one goes, we all go.
Right. Well, luckily for most people around the country, there's usually a retro gaming show, within driving distance, somewhere, throughout the year. It's a great community and a lot of people, taking the effort and time to put these shows on. So you just got to get out there and find one locally and go for it. We try to update that on gamerspots.com as well. So if you go there, there's a calendar. And if you know of an expo or whatever, and I don't have it in there, feel free to add it as well. So
yeah, that goes out to anyone listening, because I've added all of them I know of that's in the Indiana area. And like I said, I go to Gamer Spots usually about once every month or so just to see what new's been added, if there's anything new in my area that I need to run out and check out.
Yeah, we had somebody come in and spam it. I mean, you'll see now, like, some of the places, like 4,000 reviews, and it's all, Michael Jordan shoes and Air Jordans, and so I need to get with my guy, and somehow we need to go in and obliterate all that shit, but that pissed me off.
Yeah, that's one thing whenever you're doing a website that's really hard to battle.
It really is.
Speaking of you running into that, how do you fight that as far as on the forums and whatnot?
On the forums, we had issues with it, but now we ask the security question at the beginning, and that filters most of that crap out. I mean, there were days a few years ago where I'd get 100 people a day signing up, and it was just all spam. And inadvertently, while you're clearing all that shit out, you'd end up knocking out a legitimate person that wants to come in. And if that's ever happened to anybody, I apologize, but. You can always re-register and shoot me an email or whatever. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of, lots of different channels and forums and whatnot. So, let me know. But right now we ask the security question, and I don't know how, but it doesn't filter everything out. So somehow people still get through that, but it's maybe 5 to 10 a week. And I can tell what these email addresses look like at this point. So. There's a couple of sites you can go where you can put an email address in it. It will tell you, if it's been used in spam before. So there's a couple of sites, that a lot of forum guys will bring up and just plug these email addresses in or these IP addresses. And, generally, if you get IP addresses from, like Transylvania or something, that it's bogus.
Right. A lot of people don't take into account all the work that you put in to not only GameGavel, but the websites that support it as well. I mean, that must be an all-day job in itself outside from your normal work.
Yeah, I've got a real job. I'm lucky to work out of my house and, can keep tabs on GameGavel and the forums and everything throughout the day. So it works out really well. But, GameGavel really runs itself. I've brought on a team of a couple of guys that do some reviews for us and post some news. I post news, in the morning between, we get tons of press releases every morning. So usually, first thing, the way I start my day is buzz into the email account, cut and paste, all of the, at least the stuff that's interesting that I think is newsworthy. And we'll just go in and post it in the news. So, you can kind of keep up to date on it. We're not like a Destructoid or a Joystick or Kotaku where we're, updating news, all day long, 24/7. I mean, but we'll pick and choose some of the cool stuff, and filter out a lot of the stuff that we don't really find too interesting and throw it in there. And we review games, all over the board. We're doing Retro Month this month here in April of 2012 for people that are listening to this, 10 years out. And we're just doing a big month of retro. Steve, the guy that he's my editor-in-chief, he just said, Mike, I'm so sick of playing current generation games. I don't think I can play another first-person shooter. He goes, can we do some retro like all month, And I'm like, dude, whatever you want to do. So, so anyway, we're going to be posting some retro stuff. Every month we're always posting retro stuff, and some newer generation games as well. But this month, April, we're just doing nothing but retro. So you never know what you're going to see on the site. It's just sort of whatever we feel like posting and writing about.
Good deal. That sounds like it's going to be a fun month. Well, I've probably kept you from your family and from your regular daily stuff for Sunday longer than I should have to begin with. But
no problem.
Before I let you go, is there anything else that you might want to say or give out?
You know what? I just want to thank everybody that's a member of the site or visited the site. We need all the help we can get taking on a company and the size of eBay. I really want people to feel that they can come to GameGavel and sell as much as they can for hardly anything, hardly any fees, and feel comfortable that they're going to get a decent return on their selling prices and stuff. One of the things we've done now, guys, is if you go to our homepage, you can I have sort of a list of some of the random items that are closing or that have closed, so you can actually see that stuff is selling all week long, and kind of what the prices are. And stuff like that. So we're trying to kind of portray more of the selling activity on GameGavel's homepage. So it's kind of fun, I think, to go down and onto the homepage and just look through that list and see what's selling, what are the selling prices. One of the other things that we do that's really cool is we've got the affiliated groups. So, for example, if you also, I'm going to pull up the list here so I don't fuck it up. If you're also part of, Screw Attack, Cheap Ass Gamer, Digital Press, Atari Age, Nintendo Age, Sega 16, RF Generation, Pwn, Game TZ, or even Pete's Game Room, essentially you can indicate that you're a member of of one or all of those different communities, and you're going to get your own little badge next to your name. And the really cool thing about this, and again, this is one of those things that's because we specialize in games and the gaming communities, and it's another cool idea I had. Let's say you're an Atari Age, and you just want to look for items that are up for auction by other Atari Age members. You can go into our advanced search, click the Atari Age button there, and say find items only from people from Atari Age. So it's kind of like those communities own mini marketplaces that exist within GameGavel, and it'll sort just the games that are or items that are being listed by other Atari Age members. So that's really cool, I think. And again, that just shows, I hope it shows, my dedication to the gaming community. Obviously, eBay doesn't give a rat's ass about any of you guys. They're just interested in the bottom line, which, they're a business. They got every right to that. But again, I think any site that's dedicated and focuses on one thing can always do it better. And that's something we're always striving to do here on GameGavel. We know that there's issues. We're trying to revamp the invoicing system. We're trying to revamp the search function. So you don't have to drill down all those different things. These are just things that take time, and unfortunately, I'm not the guy that programmed the site. So I've got a guy that does it for me, and he gives me a really great deal on it. So I'm a little bit at his mercy. He will do things when he gets to them, but those are all in the works. We want to have a save search function like eBay, where if you're looking for something, you can save that search, and when that item's listed, you'll get a notification. So these are all things that we're adding. And we'll add. So, it's only going to get better. It's only going to get better.
Good deal, man. Like I said, I'm one that can vouch for the community. It's one of the best retro gaming communities I've ever seen. As far as the whole auction part, then you add in the forums part, you add in gamer spots for the areas to go to, you add in Retro Gaming Roundup for the entertainment and informative information. It's one of the best communities I've ever been a part of. But I really want to thank you for taking time out of your day to talk to the people listening over on my little website. I do really appreciate it.
Yeah, sure. That's the other thing. Anything we can do to help out anybody else, starting any, we don't want to stifle anybody, I mean, that's one of the things on GameGavel, it's a lot of people are like, you're nuts, you're crazy. I think you're a goofball for trying to do this, and then I got the other people that have backed me and really supported me. And you know what? It's great, for us and people like Lethco or anybody else that are trying to go out there and kind of pave their own road in this hobby. We owe all of these people our support, and it just it's I can't understand why some people won't offer support for people that are trying to go out and pave the way and to do different things to help or to entertain. So hats off to you.
Well, hey, I appreciate it. Anything we can get.
Yeah, right.
But tell you what, thank you for taking time out of this, and thanks for dropping in.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
welcome Retro Review Revolution fans. I'm Indie Soul, and I've decided to record my little segment here using a Sony Walkman NetMD recorder, just to make it even more retro. A device that uses one of Sony's many proprietary formats that, never quite took off. That's not what I'm going to be talking about today, however, but if you do hear some grinding sounds in the background, that is just the oversensitive stereo microphone picking up everything, including the mini disc spinning up as it records. Sometimes you'll hear which means, this microphone is too damn good. But today I'm going to be talking about the Game Boy Light, a recent pickup that I managed to luckily find in a little shop here in Seoul, South Korea. Now, I haven't really been looking for one, but I was looking for the chance to perhaps modify my original Game Boy. Looked online and saw many different methods that it could be done with an original Game Boy. And then I read about the Game Boy Light, and I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. I wish I could find one of those. And lo and behold, a few months later, I in fact did find one in a little shop in this very large electronics super mall here in Seoul known as the Techno Mart. It is an 9 floors. The top floor is a movie theater. The other 8 floors are all electronics. They sell cell phones, TVs, toasters, computers, cell phones, anything electronic you can imagine, they have it there. I managed to find it in this little shop that was quite far away from the regular gaming area where they sell all the modern games, but never any retro games. This little shop had a whole bunch of different retro items for sale, from Game Boy Colors to Game Boy Pockets to Game Gear, several things that they have there. In fact, I also picked up a Game Gear minty in the box a few days later. That's a different story. But anyway, I was at the shop and I saw the box sitting in his little display case, and I was like, oh wow, I must have a Game Boy Light. This is a must-have item. Knowing Korea that it would be very, very expensive, because even normal Game Boys here in Korea run from $40 to $80. And that is a crazy price to pay for a Game Boy. But a Game Boy Light, however, is quite a rare item, and goes on eBay for just the console alone for about $90 to $100. In the box, it goes well over $100, $130, $150, depending on where you buy it from, and usually then you have to also pay shipping because it's usually a Japanese seller that has it. But I asked the owner of the game booth, just basically said to him, do you have any Game Boys? And he brings out this bright yellow, really ugly bright yellow Game Boy Color. So totally not the one that I was looking for. Pretended to be interested in it, looked at it for a while, and then I pointed to the one that I really wanted, which was the Game Boy Light. At first I thought maybe it was just a box that he had for display purposes. But once he pulled it out and I took a look at it, I was so amazed. My jaw literally dropped to the floor. It was in pristine, perfect condition. Didn't come with a manual or any kind of AC adapter, but the unit itself was in perfect condition. Not a scratch on the screen, not a single scratch on the case itself. Just absolutely perfect. Looked like it had never been played, never been used before. And so I asked him the very, very difficult question, which was, "Olmayo?" which in Korean or in English means, how much is that? How much is this? And I just expected him to say, about $100. But when he said $40, I was like, no shit. And instantly the money came flying out of my wallet. I grabbed the Game Boy. I looked at it and stared at it in awe and disbelief that I had found such an awesome, rare, and wonderful little handheld. I was just so shocked and so amazed at what I had found, and at such a reasonable price. The Game Boy Light was Nintendo's very first backlit system. They wouldn't release a backlit handheld until 2004 when they released the Nintendo DS. So it was really a rare and unusual thing that they put a backlight in a system. And what's even more unusual about it is that the backlight that they used was an electroluminescent display, an ELD. Now maybe you remember from the 90s the very popular line of Timex and Casio watches. The Timex watches, they were referred to as Indiglo. Indiglo technology. Gives you that blue-greenish aura light. Whenever you push a button, the light would come on your watch. And you could tell what time it was, even in complete dark, because the blue electroluminescent display would light up. Now, some of you may be wondering, why would you want a Game Boy with an ELD display? Well, first of all, of course, the original Game Boy, I actually really like that green pea soup kind of look. Game Boy Color is pretty cool, but I don't know what it is. It's just the nostalgic factor, I suppose, of the old green screen, gray brick Game Boy that really grabs my attention and brings back those memories, those nostalgic feelings that I had as a young, child playing with my Game Boy. So I also have picked up an original Game Boy. I sold my original Game Boy from childhood many years ago, very sadly. And I've just started getting my retro collection back on track. And that was one of the first retro consoles that I've picked up was the original Game Boy. Definitely when I saw the Game Boy Light, I instantly fell in love. I love the fact that the electroluminescent display preserves that green soup look to it, but also adds some sharpness and the ability, of course, to play it in the dark or under any lighting conditions. I still will play it even in the house and turn the light on just so that I can see it very clearly. It's very bright and clear. The screen is much better on the Game Boy Light, of course, than it was on the original Game Boy. Now, a little history about the Game Boy Light. The Game Boy Light was released on April 14th in 1998 in Japan for 6,800 yen, which is around $70 US back then. It was only available in Japan. It was never sold anywhere else in the world. It is a little bit bigger than the Game Boy Pocket, and it uses 2 AA batteries, which apparently, according to the sources on the internet, give it approximately 20 hours with the light off and 12 with it on, which is better than the Game Boy Pocket. The Game Boy Pocket only gives you 10 hours with the AAA batteries that it uses. Another cool thing about the Game Boy Light is the battery cover itself. The battery cover is molded to fit 2 AA batteries. It just wraps around, which provides a really nice grip for your hands when you're holding the console. When it was released, it was available in 2 basic standard colors, gold and silver. I had the silver one. And there's some more rare versions out there. For example, there's an Astro Boy edition, which had a clear case and a picture of Astro Boy on it. There was a really rare Osamu Tezuka World Shop edition, which has a clear red case and a picture of the characters on it. There's also a Pokemon Center Tokyo version that is yellow. And probably the rarest is the clear skeleton Famitsu edition, which apparently only 5,000 units were released of that one. There's also a clear yellow edition from the Pokemon Center Tokyo store. And you might be saying, are you sure it was the first Nintendo portable to have a backlit screen? Well, yeah, you might think that the Game Boy Advance SP was backlit, but no, the original one that was released in 2003, it was front lit. And the backlit model did not come out until 2005, which of course was the AGS 101. Now, the Game Boy Light, of course, can only play original Game Boy games and not Game Boy Color games unless they are the backwards compatible ones, which are the ones, of course, that are shaped like regular original Game Boy games. What's very interesting is that the Game Boy Light was only on the store shelves for a very limited time. It was released in April of 1998, and then by October it was superseded by the Game Boy Color. And by November that year it was completely gone from the store shelves. So it was only sold in stores for just a few months, and that is what makes it a very rare console. And it's sought after by people, of course, because you don't need to mod it to add a backlight. It already has one. And the backlight itself is really fucking awesome. It's electroluminescent. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to relive the 90s Timex Indiglo watch along with their nostalgic feelings towards the Game Boy itself? It's really a 2-for-1. You get the great nostalgic factor of the original Game Boy in a Game Boy Pocket-sized form factor, along with the beautiful electroluminescent backlight. So if you have money to spend and you're not afraid to spend a lot of money, you can find these on eBay all the time, or Amazon. They usually go for $90 for a scratched up one that's just console only. You can get brand new ones in box for $130 to $150, minus the shipping, of course. The ones I've seen on eBay, Feebay, whatever you want to call it, they are usually from Japan. I've yet to. There were a few that I think that were from the U.S., but most of them that I've seen these days anyway are from a Japanese seller. So then you got to add on like $40 plus for the shipping cost. So yeah, it's definitely an expensive proposition if you want to pick yourself up a Game Boy Light. I'm just very lucky that I lucked into one. And I love my little system. It's a really awesome system. In fact, I happen to have my Game Boy Light right here, so I'm just going to flick it on. Play a little Tetris. So if you're interested in Game Boys and you want to pick up a Game Boy Light, I say go for it if you're really dedicated to that system. I just really like it because, like I said, it's 2-for-1. Electroluminescent backlight and an awesome Game Boy. Right now I'm playing Tetris on it. Come on, I gotta get some lines here. Why do they always start me out with this squiggly little bastard first? Sadly, I'm playing Tetris DX for the Game Boy Color, which is one of the backwards compatible ones. I cannot find the original Tetris here in Korea. Well, I haven't yet. I am still on the search for it, though. As you can hear, the sound is quite loud. I have yet to change the batteries in this since I purchased it. Over a month ago, I've probably logged at least 10 hours in it already, with the backlight on. It's still going strong. God, love me some Tetris. Anyway, thank you very much for listening to my little rant about the Game Boy Light. I hope you enjoyed it, and get in the forums. Keep the community of the Retro Review Revolution alive. It is a great little website that Lethco has created. As community members, it is our job to keep it going. Keep it exciting, keep it interesting. This is Indie Soul, out.
Hey there, retro revolutionists and fellow collectors and fans of Nintendo. This is the NES Pimp here, and this is the NES Pimp's Collector's Corner, my segment and contribution to the Retro Review Revolution podcast. So I hope that this isn't the first and last. I plan on doing a few more of these, so let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope my stories and experiences can help you in your gaming and collecting experiences. When I was a kid growing up, I didn't have really many games. I only had Super Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt, the game that came with the system, and the game I played for probably about 2 years before. My cousin, who got a Super Nintendo, gave me his old Nintendo games. I got some games like Pac-Man, Boy in a Blob, Super Mario Brothers 2 and 3, Lolo. I still have those games in my collection. The first games I bought from a store, brand new, were Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and Defenders of Dynatron City. And for whatever reason, when I was a kid, I liked Defenders of Dynatron City and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Not many kids even knew about that stuff, but it was something I was interested in. And I seen the games for like $5 or $10 because that time they were liquidating them out. Just like they'll be selling off Wii games for $5 or $10 in a couple months when the new Wii U comes out. When the Super was out and was, halfway through its lifespan, they were getting rid of a lot of the old Nintendo stuff, and that's when I started picking it up. And I just played those games for a while, and then by the time I got into high school is kind of when I would start considering myself a collector. The video store down the street from me was getting rid of all their games and rentals that they used to have and trade-ins and whatever, because at that time there was N64 coming out, and then they had the GameCube shortly after this time had come out, and nobody cared about Nintendo and Super Nintendo, so I was able to get games for like $3 or $4. Some of the games I picked up were games like Zelda and Final Fantasy and Ninja Gaiden and Double Dragon, and games that I had played at friends' house as a child and always wanted to play for myself. So I picked them up, and then I started going for games that just looked strange and horror games like Nightmare on Elm Street and Friday the 13th. That's how I came across Zombie Nation, because it has a really cool, strange-looking artwork on the cartridge and box cover. And I picked that one up for, I think, $3 or $4, and I played it, and it was a really strange game. And I looked it up on the internet, and I was like, I never heard of this. This thing seemed weird. And that's when I found out, some of these games are valuable or rare. And I collected other things, and I had other interests. But it was just an interest that was kind of in the background. Like, I'd pick it up, and I just played retro games, and I didn't really play much of the newer systems. I didn't really care for them, and that's probably why. I mean, now I can enjoy any video game, but then I just liked the old, simple 8-bit games, and I just go to the flea market and pick them up, and that got me into collecting. And then eventually I had close to 500 or 400 games, and I decided, man, I got like more than half the collection. I should just go for them all. These games aren't going to be around forever, and I want to play them forever, and I want to play all of them. And it became really an obsession, and I found myself even walking down the street one time thinking, how many of these houses have an old Nintendo in there, just in a shoebox somewhere, that a bunch of games, and they don't know or care about it. It's stuffed in their attic or their basement somewhere. And because back in the day, everybody had a Nintendo, and if you didn't have a Nintendo, then you had maybe a Sega or something. But like every household had one. So it was just something that I thought about, and I kind of became like maybe a little bit obsessed with the games at that point, and that's when I started joining forums and looking at eBay stuff and that. But before that, I really could have cared less about that. So I've missed out on some games. I'm sure there's games I don't even know I've missed out on. Maybe I've came across stadium events multiple times in all those years collecting, and I didn't know it. So I know a lot of you guys listening know your shit. You know what you're talking about and what you're doing. But maybe you'll find something helpful here. And for the new people, I can definitely point out some key tips and what you should look for, and where the good deals are. And that's what I'm going to try to focus on in Collector's Corner. So for the first segment here that I'm doing, I'd like to focus on what to look for and how to kind of manage your collection. So there's a few things here, whether you're looking at stuff, purchasing it now. Like I picked up a Wii game called Marble Mania, and I predict that's going to be the rare game as far as Wii games go in the future. And just some stuff to look for when you're purchasing games now, and what made games in the past rare. And one of those things would be exclusive. So with anything that you're collecting, you can basically relate this list to that exclusive stuff. So if it's only available at one store, like if it's available at GameStop or Toys R Us, one of those places, and you can't get it anywhere else, then that's obviously going to be harder to come by and more rare than other things in the future, because it's limited to just one place or two places. Just like some games were limited as rental-only games, and now those games are rare because they were exclusive to maybe Blockbuster or another video store. If something's pulled from the market or recalled, that's what happened to that game Marble Mania that I was talking about. I mean, it was pulled after like 3 or 4 months because of poor sales. But as far as I know, that's the only Wii game that was ever pulled from the market. But another game we know, Stadium Events, that was pulled from the market after 3 days. So that's what makes it so rare, because there weren't many sales. Not many people got them because they disappeared and were either thrown in the trash, or maybe there's a warehouse full of them out there somewhere. So things that are discontinued. Also later releases. So, if you're into collecting whatever, you're collecting anything, the stuff that comes out last, right? So if they're still coming out with Wii games next year, nobody's going to be buying those games, or very few people will. There'll be a small margin. There's a small market for that. So the later releases, not as many people will buy, and that also helps make them rare. The less copies there are of something, the harder it is to get. And if you want to get them all, those are going to be the ones that are harder to get. Limited production is also another thing to look for, which is kind of the same as later releases. Like if something flops and it just doesn't sell well, or, I know even like if people are into like collecting certain things like comics or Hot Wheels cars, sometimes, or like, I don't know, even like Transformers figures. I know there's guys who collect that kind of stuff, but they'll come out with toys now, or comics now, or even like video games or whatever, or like the Skylanders scenario. They come up with ones that are gold or silver, and they're made to be rare. These things are very in limited production, so they're meant to be collectible, and that means people will want to collect them, and they'll be more valuable than your average whatever it is that you're collecting. And one more thing that makes stuff rare is like defects and stuff like that. Stuff that just isn't meant to be. It's not meant to really exist. I don't know if you can really count those as rare, because they're not supposed to be anything, but they are. So if you really get into collecting, some people don't really care too much about that stuff, but some people are like, wow, this is something I have that nobody else can have. So over the past few years, I had some different experiences. By one time I came across a game called Panic Restaurant, a long story, so I'm not gonna get into it. But when I came across it, the guy had $15 on it, and I only had 10, so I tried to get it for 10. He wouldn't move on his price. He said if I bought that one and another $15 game, I could have them both for 25. And like that was a good deal, and I should have taken it, but I didn't have the money at the time. Had I known it, how rare it was, I would have rushed to an ATM and got it. I mean, it looked like a cool game, and I always went for games with weird covers, but this is when, I became aware of rare games that I didn't already own. So I fucked up, man. I went back the next day, and I missed out on it by like 2 seconds. There was a guy in front of me buying it, and fuck, I don't even think he knew the name of the game or anything, but I missed out. And then I went, the week before I had gone on the internet to look it up and found out that it was like going for like $115 or something. And I was like, whoa, I want that. And I didn't get it. I just missed out. So the thing with collecting is you gotta know your shit, and that's when I decided to compile a list of every game released for the Nintendo, and I could collect them all, and it was a checklist, and I could bring that list with me, and I could check off what I had or what I didn't have, and I knew I wouldn't end up buying duplicates, and if I seen something that was really rare, even if it didn't look like it was rare, or I didn't care about it, or ever heard of it before, I knew what to look for, and I wasn't gonna miss out on an opportunity like that again, So, I'll make that checklist available to all the Retro Review Revolution members. If you just message me, tell me that you want it. I compiled it about 3 years ago using several different already existing price guides and checklists, including the NES guide, eBay. I think there was another one I found on the computer. There was a Nintendo Age one. There was a Racket Boy one, and I just went on all different sites and looked at pricing and sales of them and my own personal experiences. How often, like, if I had never seen the game before or heard of it, it obviously wasn't common. So, I took in everything, and it took me probably 8 or 9 months to make that checklist, and I'm going to share it with everybody now who's a member here on Retro Revolution. So just message me there, and I'll send that to you. But there's also some other cool tricks I use to collect games. Is I go to the NES guide, which I mentioned, and that's a pretty much complete list. They got like different stuff on there, like home brews and different, even I think like reproduction stuff. And you can check out the videos and get an idea for the price of what it goes for on eBay. So if you're looking for a game and you're not sure if you want to buy it or not, go over there, check it out. They also have a complete list of SNES stuff and N64 on there too. You can check out every game. And there's another website, I can't think of it right now, so if you're interested in that too. It has the latest sales on Amazon, eBay, and half.com. I'll send you the link to that as well if you message me. And you can get an idea of what's out there. The pics I took of my collection that I posted on Retro Review Revolution, those are also, I just took mainly the rare stuff that I have, and that kind of shows, like, obviously if I got those games I have a lot of other stuff, but people who don't know a lot about Nintendo can look at that and be like, okay, well obviously this is the kind of stuff I should be looking for. So if you look at that, that kind of gives you an idea of some of the rare stuff that's out there. And yeah, so I hope that's been helpful for you. I'm gonna talk about next time where you can find games. I mean, there's like flea market game shops, obviously, maybe some other places, and how to get them for better prices. I use a few different tricks on sites like Kijiji and Craigslist to find better deals. and I'll tell you guys how to do that, and because I don't want to pay retail for anything, and if I do, I'll try to get it for under still. Like, I don't want to pay the highest price for nothing, and I don't think you should have to, because some of the prices some of these games are getting just ridiculous. But anyways, that's my segment. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I'll leave it at that, and I'll start planning for another NES Pimps Collector's Corner, so watch out for that on the next Retro Review Revolution podcast. Thanks, guys.
Hello, Retro Review Revolution. This is NES Johnny, coming at you from sunny Long Beach, California. I've just wanted to talk to you about a little video gaming. And really what's on my heart today is that the best multiplayer happens on a couch. This is just an undeniable fact, man. I've got some friends from college and stuff, and we play multiplayer games online together. And, you know, we all got our headsets together, and it's sort of a modern way to talk on the phone with a dude without it being, you know, kind of fishy looking. But this is, you know, how I keep in touch with all my old pals and how we hang out even though we're in, you know, 2 different states now or whatever. But really, I miss just seeing these guys in college all sitting down on the couch and playing some Smash Brothers, some Contra, some Super Mario All-Stars. I don't know, you know, it's just, there's something different and better about everybody being in the same room playing a game together. That's the way it was meant to be. So my favorite multiplayer games for that are Jackal, Contra, Super C, Shadow of the Ninja, and Mario All-Stars. Mario All-Stars is a really good multiplayer game because it lets you transfer lives to each other and it's easier about letting you continue. And this is just a good game for a few people on the couch. And, you know, I don't think it needed a graphical improvement, and Mario is such a great game, it doesn't need to be rehashed, but, you know, I think it's a little overlooked in the retro gaming community for its multiplayer ability. I know there's a little resentment against it for trying to perfect something that was already perfected, but let's give it a little props for being a good game to play with a friend. But anyway, let me tell you about a multiplayer gaming story. I knew this guy in college named Chris, and how we met was there's this Facebook group for people that like to play the NES, and I posted in there, said, hey, I've got a few hundred games. If anyone wants to come by, let's have a beer and play a game. And this guy named Chris said, hey, all right. He sent me a message. We met up. We played a little Jackal for a while. And, you know, this was well and good. He was just telling me about his life, and he's majoring in biology, and his girlfriend was named Lisa. You know, he seemed like a pretty normal, decent guy. And I think we hung out maybe a couple times, so I didn't see him much. Anyway, it turns out his little side piece was this girl that was a roommate of a good friend of mine. And that friend of mine was named Lauren. I was over her place drinking one night, and we're having some drinks, and the roommates came by. They started drinking with us too, and it's just a good time for me. I'm drinking with 4 girls here. And then this one girl's like, "Oh man, I hope Chris, last name, really just commits to me. I hope we get married." And God forgive me, I broke bro code. But I'm drunk. I didn't know it was a secret. And I'm like, "I think he's going to marry Lisa." And she's like, "What?" It's like, his girlfriend, Lisa. I think they're going to get married. And she just, flips out. She does a little Facebook investigating. I guess he had blocked her on Facebook. But she got on one of her roommate's computers, saw the whole thing, and just walked over to his room, slapped him in the face so hard it broke his cheek open. And, man, that was some drama. They had this big old fight. I don't know if Chris and Lisa ever made it or what happened there. I never saw Chris again. I don't know if he was mad at me or if it was just because he was so busy. And I don't know if he knew I was involved in this or not. But, man, this was some good small school drama right here, let me tell you. The entertainment from that ended up going well beyond just playing Jackal for an hour or two on the couch. So anyway, get on your couches, play a game with a friend, make a new friend even. Hopefully they're not keeping any secrets from you. Well, if I can recommend a game to you, that would be Maximo for PlayStation 2. Maximo is a pretty dope game. It's one of the earliest PlayStation 2 games ever released. And what makes this cool is set in the Ghosts and Goblins universe, and it is really hard. It's sort of like if Mario 64 was set in sort of a medieval fantasy landscape. You had a sword, gave you a challenge. And this is what I like. And it's got all the same sort of like action, platforming, secrets everywhere, all sorts of power-ups. You can just keep going on this game for a long time, and it'll keep you looking and searching and fighting and hacking and slashing. This is a good one to play. This is a good one to beat, too. I strongly, strongly recommend this. And one of the coolest things about this one is it's so hard. People don't like it because, they're modern gamers and they cry about everything. So you can pick it up for just a couple bucks. And if I can trash a game, it would be Fear 3. I hope my buddy that bought this for me isn't listening. It was really nice of my friend to pick it up for me, but I kind of enjoy playing it to some degree. But it's kind of got this like level up system that is based on in-game achievements. But the achievements are really stupid. Like you'll pick up some ammo and it'll pop up this little window that says, "Scavenger, you picked up one of 50 ammo clips from a deceased enemy." And so, like, every little action you do gives you this achievement. It's just frustrating. It's really stupid. I think achievements are dumb. I mean, beating Maximo for PS2 was an achievement. Like, picking up ammo in a game isn't an achievement. Come on, let's be real here. I really don't like how they integrated achievements into Fear 3. It's just really distracting and really frustrating. Maybe that's just a reflection of culture on a whole getting really easy on our children. Not a lot is expected of them scholastically or socially, so hey, may as well make games hold your hand too. Anyway, just a few reflections for you. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for listening to the Retro Review Revolution podcast. I'm honored to be part of the second one, and keep listening, and I hope you have a little piece you can record for the next one too. Thank you.
Lefko here for my segment on this month's podcast. I'd like to talk about the retro resurge, or the building popularity of people getting back into retro gaming. Since I started, we've seen the retro gaming popularity really increase in the past few years. All one really has to do is get on eBay and watch the prices climb on certain more popular games. I've seen Earthbound go from $70, which I was unwilling to pay, up to around $120 right now. Feel I got lucky on the few. I recently picked up Dragon Warrior 3 and 4, and got good deals on them, considering the fact that, I'm looking on the usual auction sites, seeing them go for anywhere from $50 to $80. But I kind of wonder, why it's all of a sudden becoming the in thing to get into retro gaming. Are people actually becoming bored with modern gaming? It does kind of make you wonder to a bit of a degree. Bringing that up, a lot of modern gaming companies are actually recognizing this. We've seen a bunch of retro game collections come out, starting back in the PS2 era. A lot of companies were trying to bring out their retro collections, and it became noticeable in the PS2 area. But if you go back even further, you'll see retro games coming out on the Super Nintendo. Companies releasing games like Midway's Arcade Classics on Super Nintendo. Not arcade quality ports, but basic ports of the arcade games. Sega was one that always tried to repackage their old games as well. I believe the Sega or the Sonic Smash Pack was one that had come out. But fast forwarding to the modern era, get on your handheld, your Android market, your Apple market, and there's old games all over the place. Namco has tons of older games. Just about every major arcade manufacturer has some sort of arcade collection now for iOS, be it Atari with their 100 games app, Midway, Namco, Capcom. And I just all kind of wonder, what has caused this big resurgence in gaming? Going back to what I said earlier, is it because people are getting bored with modern consoles? One funny thing that I've noticed is that the modern consoles seem to be hanging on for a bit longer than what previous consoles had. We had gone into a system to where you'd see a new console generation every 5 years or so. However, looking at the Xbox 360, the PS3, these are consoles going on 7 to 8 years of age. Even consoles that I thought were newer in the handheld market. Nintendo's DS, look at the huge lasting power on it. It had some hardware modifications, but you can still go to Walmart, buy a DS game, and they'll play in your original DS. And right up until the 3DS came out, the newest format, which finally will not play in the regular DS, but with that said, DS games are still in production. So it does kind of make one wonder, with the whole retro thing becoming more and more popular, is it going to get almost to a breaking point? There's only so many old carts out there on eBay, and yes, there is the old, standby of emulation and whatnot. But I just find it very interesting that retro has almost become mainstream. And one area where it kind of really bites us in the rear end is those of us that really enjoy going out and collecting the games. In the past few years, it's become a lot harder to go out and pick up games. Whenever I first started collecting, I could always go out to my local Goodwill, my local pawn shop. There would always be something out there that I could pick up. It's gotten to the point to where either one, I do not find old games at Goodwill, or two, I find sports games at Goodwill. Pawn shops are starting to see the value of certain old games. Funny thing that I found out recently going to a pawn shop, picked up a copy of Mario Kart 64 for $5, which is really a steal if you look at the eBay price. Go up to pay for it, and the lady's like, "Hey, I got some more old games in if you're wanting to check them out." I'm like, "Well, you have." She had Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. Keep in mind both titles were pack-in games for the Super Nintendo. Bleach is winning $20 for Mario World and $25 for Donkey Kong Country. So people are starting to see the value of retro games, even if they're not sure what prices to put on the particular cart yet. But it's gotten a lot harder to really collect the original games due to the retro research. I'm looking at a situation right now to where I almost have to purchase exclusively online at this point. I am having a lot of trouble finding old school games out in the wild. And, thank God that there's alternative auction sites such as eBay. You have the GameGavel alternative, which is really the best bet in my opinion. As I'm sure you'd heard from Bismuth's earlier interview with Mike Kennedy. If you go on Amazon.com, you can actually find old games on there. There's GoodwillAuctions.com. It was supposedly a hidden auction site, but it's more or less been uncovered at this point. Everyone knows about it. Then finally there's forums. Of course, Retro Review Revolution has a marketplace forum. Nintendo Age has a marketplace and an auction forum. Sites such as KLOV.com have a marketplace forum. It's getting to the point now to where if you're a collector of video games, it's easier for you to go to those other websites rather than to, cruise around in town. With that said, the thrill of the hunt is still a huge, huge part of the game whenever you're out looking. I mean, just because the items are much, much fewer and much, much further in between doesn't take the thrill out of actually going out to your, local marketplaces and finding something. I'm in a unique situation in that area right now as my local small town community, no more than 10,000 people, actually has 2 retro gaming stores, and it's really a shame because they're competing heavily with each other to the point to where, one person drops their prices, the other one drops theirs just a little bit lower than the other one. And right now it's a growing fear with both of them that one of them's going to have to go out of business because they can't keep doing it. And I hate to see either one of them close down. I wish they could, kind of work together, but one of them's taking an aggressive stance, which is a real shame because it really goes against that whole sense of camaraderie that a lot of the retro community has. But that's probably enough of my rambling towards the end of this podcast. I just wanted to give my thoughts on this whole resurgence of the retro gaming community. We're going to close out this podcast with something a bit different. Cynical Enigma's band has finally wrapped up recording on their first track. Sounds really cool if you're into stuff like Slipknot, alternative metal. With that said, there's some profane lyrics and whatnot. If it's against your particular beliefs or music style, this will wrap up the podcast. If you're a metalhead like myself, though, be sure to tune in for the debut of the Gruesome Foursome. Till then, we will see you next time on RetroReviewRevolution.com.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Cynical Enigma. I talked to Lethco, and he said I could squeeze in a little preview of my band's song called Iowan Horror. I shortened it up a little bit. The lyrics are explicit, so just giving you guys a little warning, a heads up, and just to let you guys know, this is our first track recording, and there's still a lot of work to be done. I know my voice sucks, and I know some of you may not agree with the guitar parts or whatever. It may sound a little bit out of place, but bear with me. Anyways, here's the song Iowan Horror by my band Gruesome Foursome. Hope you guys enjoy.
so on. We make a point of faith, swords or not. I smash it with my mates, do it in the town now. But I am right, the brave man said, to always think twice.
When I look at you, you make me wanna kill you. I wanna see you bleed. It's the satisfaction that I need. You think it's funny to play me? Wait, I can already see all your filthy lies.
I will